So I want to make another video about soccer, as us Yanks call it, but world football because it's really one of my it's my favorite sport, hands down, and it's also a topic I really like talking about. I love watching. I used to play a lot. I played in college. I played since I was a kid. I played in varsity high school, and I played on a lot of intramurals teams and men's leagues in my 20s and even into my early 30s, and we won a couple of championships. So it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm itching to get back out there once I recover from an injury. But in the last couple of videos, I talked a little bit about the MLS and why I think it's a really good league and it's really entertaining, although it may not be as strong as, say, the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A. French league's probably, that's stronger too. I think even the Mexican league is slightly stronger than the MLS right now overall. But the MLS is slowly and surely beginning stronger, and will it ever compete with some of the European leagues? Probably not. Maybe it will someday, but I really don't think it matters. I think they have a good business model, and I think it's working and it's entertaining. You never know who's going to win any given night, and you never know who's going to make the playoffs. It's always competitive right up to the end, and you never know who's going to win the championship. So I love watching it, and I'm going to keep watching it. And then the U.S. national team, obviously, we have a ton of work to do. So hopefully that changes. And then I also touched on some of the players who I think are in the top 10 right now. And I kind of brain farted last time. So I want to go over that a little bit. So right now, who will be like the top 10 players worldwide? Of course, you have to have Ronaldo up there. You have to have Messi up there. Neymar's got to be up there. Mohamed Salah, who's turning out to be an incredible player. He's incredibly quick. Kevin De Bruyne, Lukaku, I think is moving on up there. He's looking really good. Eden Hazard, Luka Modric, of course, who I think just won the Ball on. He won Player of the Tournament in last World Cup, but he didn't win Ballon d'Or. I don't think. Did he? Maybe he won it this year. Ballon d'Or 2018. Did he win it? Or was it Ronaldo again? FIFA's best. I think Luka Modric won the FIFA Player of the Year, or did he win the 2018 Ballon d'Or as well? Anyway, I don't want to do too much research right now, or Google searching, if you will. But if anyone knows all the answers to that, feel free to comment. But nonetheless, he's right up into the conversation. And then, of course, you have Paul Pogba. He's going to be up there. Antoine Griezmann, I think, is a really solid player, so he's going to be in the top 10 probably. Mbappe, I hope I pronounced that right. Kylian Mbappe. He's got to be right up there now, too. He's turning out to be a solid player, and especially at his age. Super young, but super good. And I'm trying to think if I left anybody else out. Harry Kane is probably going to be up there. I'm sure he's considered the best English player right now. Just because of his goal-scoring prowess. Let's see, anyone else I'm leaving out? Arsenal players. I'm not thinking. I think Arsenal is overall pretty good, but I can't think of any one player that's really standing out there. So I think that's a pretty good breakdown of who's really the standout players for me right now. If there's anyone else that you think should be right up there in the running, maybe Varane, maybe some of these defenders who are obviously really solid, but a lot of times they don't get the respect that they deserve, or they don't get the notoriety that they deserve. And so anyway, I pretty much captured who I think are in the top 10 right now, more or less, in no particular order, but yeah, you can move them around any way you like to just list them in a 1 through 10. And then the next topic I want to talk about, which is definitely related, is what makes these players stand out? What makes them so good? And obviously, it's more or less a multivariable equation. So there's a certain amount of luck and just being born in the right place at the right time, right? So Ronaldo was born. He was born on an island off the coast of Portugal. I can't remember the name of the island, but he and like a lot of the European players who are really standouts, they grow up in an environment where soccer is the main sport or the only sport, and it's the popular big sport. It's what all the kids play growing up. right? So they get that opportunity and they get the exposure and they get the ability to develop their skills, right? With Zidane, who was on the streets of Marseille when he was a kid, in a rough area, and so maybe that helped to promote his intensity and his grit. I'm sure that's part of his personality, just the way he is too. But so definitely, you have to grow up in an environment where you can develop the skills at a young age or get the training at a young age with a youth program. So that's really important. But on an individual level or on an athletic ability level, what really allows, or what are the attributes that people or players growing up need to have that separates them out from the crowd or from the flock, right? So they get handpicked and they go to the next level. So I had firsthand experience with this, and so growing up playing and getting to higher levels playing soccer, I saw and I understand, I think fairly well, what separates people at the higher levels from the people who don't make it. So growing up for me, when I was younger, when I was in my early teens, I was kind of scrawny, I would say. I wasn't kind of lengthy, kind of scrawny. I didn't really go through a growth spurt until probably my sophomore, junior year in high school. And when I went through a growth spurt, I started putting on more muscle and I got taller than a lot of other players. I ended up being about 6'1", about 185. And I was relatively strong on the ball. So strength is a definitely a good aspect or good attribute to have. And definitely quickness. You need to have a lot of quickness and you need to have good touch. And me and my brother grew up playing. He's 15 months older. We grew up playing soccer all the time and competing against each other in my dad's yard where we grew up. We also played indoors downstairs in my parents' basement, just playing with these little balls and just trying these different moves on each other and just going back and forth. And that's another thing that I think developed our touch and our skills at a really young age. And so we had the benefit of having each other to play off each other and compete against each other to really improve our skills and our moves. And my brother is extremely competitive. He's I would say he's more competitive than me. Maybe not a lot more competitive, but he's definitely more competitive than me. And so it really pushed me to try and match up with him or reach his skills. And so I think that was hugely beneficial. And so we developed a good touch and we developed, quickness from that. So the part of it is trained and part of it's just natural athletic ability. So that definitely helped. Once I got to high school, I had, better touch than a lot of kids around me. And I had pretty good quickness, overall speed and sprint speed. So that's not something you can teach as much. That's something you have or you don't have, right? And I would say I was about average speed. In high school, I was a little bit faster than maybe 50% of the other people I played against. And I had better quickness than a lot of kids. And I definitely had better touch than almost everybody. And so my brother, same thing. We both had really good touch. As far as passing, passing and vision is a really good attribute too. You need to have passing and vision. You need to have really good balance. So turning quickly, and then when you get pushed or someone charges you or hits you with a shoulder charge or something like that, you need to be able to stand on your feet. And then shooting. So shooting is a lot of different things that go in a good shot. A lot of it's just trained. And so when I went to college, I went to the gym all the time. And I would just take a soccer ball and just hit against this wall in this gym. And I would go there 2 or 3 times a week. And I would just hit the ball and hit it as hard as I could with my foot against the wall for like hours on end, to the point where I was able just to hit volleys, half volleys, and just shoot it pretty hard and pretty accurately. And so when I went out and played in actual games, I started scoring these pretty crazy goals and surprising myself, but it just became muscle memory and it just became like recall, right? And so a lot of it's just training. So you can train and train and train, and you can work on develop these different attributes. But eventually you're going to reach an upper ceiling. You're going to reach an upper level of what your body is physically capable of doing. So it might be ability to dribble the ball only to a certain level, or have a certain ability to touch, with the touch on the ball. Might be a certain level of agility or all-out speed or quickness side to side or quickness front to back or explosiveness. No matter how hard you train, you're going to reach an upper limit. And so where does that upper limit leave you? So for me, I probably maximize my total attributes up to like in the 90th percentile of what I was capable of doing out on the soccer field, because I trained a lot and I grew up with a brother who we practiced against. I had good training and good coaches growing up in high school and in college. So I reached a limit, right? And so that limit brought me to a point where if I were to go against professionals or I go up against guys that are in the MLS, I probably wouldn't have been fast enough or explosive enough, because that's where my body would be able to take me to a place where I wouldn't be able to compete on that level because I wasn't fast enough overall. Especially nowadays. I mean, that was 15 years ago, but even nowadays, especially nowadays. So with the players now, I mean, they get them from all over the world, obviously, but they're very explosive, they're very quick, and they're very fast. And so no matter how much you maximize your skills, and so I might have had really good touch and been smart with the ball, and been able to shield and be able to turn right or be able to anticipate pressure and all those things and make the right passes. My quickness, my overall quickness, and my overall sprint speed, which I'm reaching my upper limit of what my physical body is capable of, is not able to keep up with the pace of the game. And so that's where it stops, right? And so if you can't surpass or get to that higher level, then you're not going to make it. And so that's what it comes down to. So I guess in summary, I would say that everyone has an upper limit of how good they can get. And you won't really know how good you can get until you really, really train hard and practice and do weightlifting and sprint and just really try and develop your physical attributes and also your technical attributes, doing, specific training and whatever else it may be. And then the other aspect of that you would need to do as well is develop your mental. And so the mental is just your ability to see visually things around you, anticipate things ahead of time. And that's actually a really underlooked attribute that I think in the U.S. we overlook that more than, say, other countries like in Europe, where guys like Andres Iniesta or Xavi or guys like that who may be at a young age, they didn't have the regular physical attributes that will make a really fast or strong or powerful player. But these coaches, these scouts could tell at a young age that they had the mental attributes. So they knew they can make decisions really quickly, and they made the right decisions really quickly. And I don't know if that's something you train a little bit, but that's also one of those natural attributes that you kind of have or you don't have. It's pure vision, right? And, the best players in soccer are basically, they have to be like quarterbacks. In fact, at the highest level, I think all the players pretty much have to react and think and see like any quarterback in the NFL. And so that's another major attribute. But it's interesting because you will see, growing up, I saw a couple of players in particular that had better physical attributes than me, for sure, but they didn't care. In fact, they were a lot more interested in drinking and drugs and partying. So they just kind of didn't give a shit. And they go out and play in high school and in college, and they would just be really good, but they never wanted to or had the desire to train really hard and go to the next level. And so eventually, I think one of the guys ended up in jail for doing some criminal activity, and he just turned into a drunk and just got some bullshit job. But if he would have cared, or he would have had the desire to go to the next level and train really hard, he would have gone at least to the MLS, I think. But he would have had a professional soccer career. On the contrary, there's another guy that I remember when I was younger in high school who had the physical attributes. He's an incredibly good athlete. He also played varsity basketball, and he was like a 3 or 4 sport athlete. And he did care, and he was a standout with soccer. He's one of the best players on the team back when they won the state championship in 1998. And he went to the MLS. He went to the MLS because he cared, and he maximized his ceiling, right? And so it's just interesting to see. So it's a combination of things. It's a combination of where you're born and the environment that you grow up in. It's also includes your natural physical attributes and your ability to go to a higher ceiling than other people around you. And it has to do with your mental attitude about going to the next level. How bad do you want it? You have to work hard to get to this high level. Not only that, but you also have to have the mental capacity for thinking ahead and thinking quickly out on the soccer field, which is an underlooked or I should say, an overlooked attribute oftentimes in the U.S. programs, I think, because some of the best soccer players in the world are not necessarily very large.